I look at my watch for the 100th time today. It's 6 in the evening. My temperature is rising again. I can feel the fever come in waves and then the chills. It's the third day I've been like this. My throat feels like sandpaper, and my cough is tearing my chest. I try to get up from the chair, but I feel dizzy, and I sink back into my seat. My gaze falls on the picture of Janice on the dresser. 8 years without her. 8 years alone in this house we bought together almost 50 years ago. Honey, I whispered to the picture, it's really lousy today. The old house crackles as if answering me. Janice and I always said it was alive, responding to the cold, to our conversations, to our joy. Now it seems as sick as I am. Or maybe it's just my imagination, clouded by the heat. The kitchen cupboard is nearly empty. I haven't eaten much the last few days. I can't get a bite down my throat. Only tea and honey, and that's gone. I need to go to the drugstore. I need groceries, but I can't even get to the bathroom without taking a break. The phone rings unexpectedly loud in the silence of the house. I reach for the receiver on the table next to the chair. Daddy, it's me. Rochelle's voice sounds hurried, like she's on the run. Hello, daughter, I answered, and I could hear my voice sounding hoarse. Daddy, do you have a cold? There's a trace of concern in her voice, but it's quickly replaced by a businesslike tone. Look, I need your help. Can you pick up a package from the post office tomorrow? They delivered it to the wrong address again, and I don't have time. I'm closing my eyes. Of course she needs help, not me. Rochelle, I'm sick. I've had a fever for 3 days. I need help myself. To go to the pharmacy, to buy groceries. Pause. I can almost see her frowning, rearranging her plans. Daddy, why are you being such a baby? Her voice comes out with a touch of irritation. You know I'm in the middle of a work emergency, and Baxter's up to his ears with this new case. I just need some medicine, I say quietly, and some food. There's another pause, a longer one. Okay, she finally says. I'll try to stop by tomorrow, but not before tonight, you know. Thanks, Rochelle. Bye, Daddy, I gotta run. Take an aspirin if you have any. The connection's going dead. I sit with the phone in my hand, listening to the dial tone. I haven't had an aspirin in 2 days. The room around me is filled with memories. Right here, on this very carpet, Rochelle was taking her first steps. Janice was standing by the couch, holding out her arms, and I was sitting on her lap, encouraging our baby girl. She was so funny, serious, focused, with those chubby cheeks and big eyes so similar to Janice's. There's still a bookcase in the corner that holds the baby books I read to her from every night. Daddy, one more page, please. And I couldn't refuse, even though after a 12-hour shift on the railroad, my eyes were slick with fatigue. She's a grown woman now, 46 years old, her own life, her own family, a lawyer husband from a well-to-do white family whom I could never understand, and who I'm sure thinks I'm an uneducated old man. In their 12 years of marriage, he has never once looked me straight in the eye. The wedding was lavish. Sybil, Baxter's mother, insisted on it. I remember how uncomfortable I felt in a rented tuxedo among their family and friends, all so trim, with perfect smiles and quiet conversations. Rochelle was radiant, but I could see how nervous she was, afraid to say the wrong thing, to do the wrong thing, like she was on an exam she was still taking with her mother-in-law. After Janice died, it just got worse. At least we used to go out to lunch together at the Crawley house once a month. Janice had a way of smoothing things over, finding common ground. Without her, those visits became torture, and gradually I began to refuse them, citing my health or other matters. And Rochelle spent more and more time in Crowley's world. She visited me less and less, first once a week, then once every 2 weeks. Now I see her, if I'm lucky, once a month, and she only calls when she needs something. I don't blame her. She always wanted a better life. Even in high school, she dreamed of a big house, beautiful things. I was proud of her ambition, her perseverance. Janice and I did everything we could to get her through college, even though we had to tighten our belts to the limit. I picked up extra shifts. Janice did custom sewing. Rochelle was the first in our family to earn a college degree. Her graduation day was one of the happiest days of our lives. But then something changed. With each step up the career ladder, with each new accomplishment, it was as if she was moving further and further away from us, from her roots. It was like she was ashamed of us working people. The cough twists me again. My chest is wheezing. Every breath is labored. The room is blurring before my eyes. Maybe I should call my neighbor Albie. No, I don't want to bother him. He stops by often enough to check up on me. Old man with his own problems. I got to get to the bed. I rise slowly, holding on to the armrests of the chair. I'm dizzy. My legs feel woozy. One step, one more step. The corridor seems infinitely long. Black dots flash before my eyes. The bedroom is dark. I forgot to turn on the light this morning. Or was it yesterday? The days have merged into one endless stream of discomfort. I fall on the bed without undressing. The sheets are cold, but after a minute I'm hot again. I throw off the blanket, only to pull it up to my chin again a few minutes later, shivering with cold. What time is it now? The bedroom clock reads almost 9 p.m. I lie staring at the ceiling, thinking about how old age is not for the faint of heart. No one warned me how lonely it is to be the last one standing. Friends are leaving one by one. The wife is gone. The daughter is estranged. There was a time when this house was filled with life. Janice's laughter in the kitchen, Rochelle's little feet stomping, the radio playing the jazz my wife loves so much. Now it's just the ticking of the clock and the crackling of the floorboards. I close my eyes, hoping sleep will bring relief. But sleep doesn't come, only coughs and fever. At some point I fall into slumber, but it is restless, full of disturbing visions. I wake to my own coughing. My throat constricts. My lungs feel like sandpaper. I can't breathe. Panic comes in waves. I sit up on the bed, gulping for air. I finally manage to take a breath, then another. My heart is pounding like crazy. It's 3 in the morning. I'm drenched in sweat, but I'm shaking from the cold. I need a drink of water. I gotta find some medicine. There should be an old thermometer in the bathroom. Every step is a struggle. I can't find the light switch in the bathroom for a long time. Finally, the light comes on, blinding my eyes. The mirror reflects a ghost. A gaunt face, sunken eyes with red streaks, gray skin. Is it really me? The thermometer is in the locker. I put it under my arm, trying to ignore the trembling in my hands. I wait for the allotted time, though it feels like an eternity. 39 and 3. No wonder I'm shaking like this. The medicine cabinet is empty, just Band-Aids and absorbent cotton. I'd run out of medicine a long time ago, and I kept putting off getting new ones. Rochelle promised to help. Tomorrow. I mean today. I staggered back to the bedroom. My head was foggy, my legs barely obeying me. I reach the bed and fall on it, feeling my strength finally leave me. Half asleep, delirious, I see Janice. She's sitting on the edge of the bed, stroking my hair like she did when I was sick. "It's going to be okay, Lester," she says in her soft voice. "You're strong. You'll get through this." I try to answer her, but my voice won't listen. I want to tell her how much I miss her, how hard it is to be alone, how hurt Rochelle forgets about us, like she's ashamed of her family. But I can only stare into my favorite face until it dissolves into darkness. The night drags on endlessly. The fever recedes, then comes back with renewed vigor. A cough rips at my chest. I fall into a heavy sleep, then wake up in sweat and chills. For a moment, I think I hear Rochelle's voice, a little 5-year-old calling, "Daddy, Daddy, look what I drew." But it's only imagination, only an echo of the past in an empty house where I am alone fighting an illness that seems to be taking over more and more with each passing hour. The morning brings no relief, but only a dull ache throughout my body. Sleep was more of a dreamlessness than rest. I struggle to unclench my eyes, trying to focus my gaze on the clock face. 9 in the morning. I overslept, though sleeping is a bit of a mouthful. An attempt to sit up on the bed ends in a bout of dizziness. The room swims before my eyes, and I have to grab onto the bedside table. My mouth is so dry, my tongue feels like sandpaper. My throat hurts with renewed vigor, like I've swallowed broken glass. After a few deep breaths, I manage to get to my feet. Shuffling like a 100-year-old man, I make my way to the bathroom. The reflection in the mirror is frightening. A gaunt face with sunken eyes, gray skin. The thermometer reads almost 39. It's bad, very bad. Rochelle promised to come tonight, but now, with every step aching in my body, tonight feels like an eternity. I need medication. I go back to the bedroom and pick up the phone. I dial my daughter's number, listen to the long beeps. 1, 2, 3, 6, 10. No one answers. Rochelle, it's Dad, I say after the answering machine beeps. My own voice feels alien, hoarse, weak. I feel worse. Please come as soon as you can. I hang up the phone, realizing that even this short conversation has exhausted me. Sighing heavily, I force myself to make my way to the kitchen. I need at least something to drink, maybe something to eat. The fridge is almost empty. Leftover bread, a piece of cheese, a few eggs. I can't even imagine eating it. I pour a glass of water, struggling to swallow. Each sip is a little torture. Walking back into the living room, I nearly fall, tripping over the edge of the rug. My heart is pounding, and my eyes are a blur of black spots. I reach the chair and sink into it, feeling weakness wash over me. I don't know how long I sat like that, half asleep, when the doorbell rang, snapping me out of my slumber. Insistent, loud. I try to get up, but my body won't listen. Lester, you home? Albie's voice sounds muffled through the door. I'm coming, I try to shout, but all I get is a wheeze. I don't know how I got to the door. I turn the lock with my naughty fingers. The door opens, and Albie, my neighbor on my left, stands on the doorstep. We're not close friends, but since our wives died, we've established a sort of unspoken watch over each other. Jesus, Lester, you're not wearing your face. Albie enters the house, gently supporting me under my elbow. What's the matter? I'm sick, I squeeze out. It's been 3 days. He helps me back into the chair, and I sink gratefully into it, feeling my legs shake with weakness. Have you seen a doctor? Albie looks at me worriedly. No. Rochelle promised to come over today. To help. Albie frowns. We both know how often Rochelle makes promises she doesn't keep. I called her an hour ago, I add. No answer. Okay. Albie rises decisively. Do you have a thermometer? In the bathroom. He comes back with a thermometer and insists I take my temperature. While I sit with the thermometer under my arm, Albie looks around the kitchen. It's a mess in here, he says, opening the refrigerator. No medication, I take it? I shake my head, then take out the thermometer. 39 and 2. I show it to Albie. This is no joke, Lester, he says seriously. You need antibiotics. I'll get my own, and then I'll go to the pharmacy and the store. I try to protest. I don't want to be a burden on my neighbor, but Albie is adamant. Don't argue with me. I've got some antibiotics left over from the surgery, just enough for you for a couple days, and I'll make some broth. It's no problem. He leaves and I stay sitting, looking out the window at the gray November sky. I feel helpless, like a child, and ashamed that I have to ask my neighbor for help when I have my own daughter. Albie comes back quickly with a small first aid kit. He makes me take some pills, then he says he'll go to the store and the pharmacy. I try to give him money, but he waves me off. We'll settle up later. Lie down for a while. You need rest. Weakness takes its toll, and I let him help me to the bedroom. As soon as my head hits the pillow, my eyes close. I fall asleep to the sound of the front door closing. I wake up to the smell of chicken broth. My stomach immediately reminds me that I haven't eaten much of anything in days. I try to sit up, feeling dizzy, but not as dizzy. I see that there is a glass of water and some pills on the nightstand next to the bed. There's a note in Albie's handwriting. Take them when you wake up. I swallow the pills obediently, and only then do I notice that Albie himself is standing in the doorway with a tray in his hands. Ah, awake, he says. Good. I've made some soup, so we should eat. What time is it? I ask, taking the tray. It's almost 3. You've been asleep for 4 hours. The soup turns out to be a real lifesaver. Hot, rich, with finely chopped chicken and vegetables. For the first time in days, eating doesn't feel like torture. Albie sits next to me, watching me eat. Did Rochelle call? I ask between spoonfuls of broth. Sakura? No. Albie shakes his head. I checked your phone. I nod, trying to hide my disappointment. Apparently Rochelle's so busy she didn't even listen to my message. I bought everything I need, Albie says, changing the subject. Flu medicine, prescription antibiotics. I have a good relationship with the pharmacist at our pharmacy, and groceries for the week. Thank you, I say, feeling a lump in my throat unrelated to the illness. I'll pay you back as soon as I can get to the bank. Don't talk nonsense, Olby says. That's what neighbors are for, to help each other. After I finish my soup, I feel better. Still weak, but not so helpless. Olby helps me change into clean pajamas. I'm embarrassed but grateful, and moves into the living room, where there's fresh air and I can sit in my favorite chair. The doctor will see you tomorrow, Olby says, sitting down across from me with a cup of coffee. I called Dr. Ramirez, and he agreed to make a house call. I shouldn't have bothered him, I mutter. You should have, Lester. You have a serious infection by the looks of it. You can't mess around with that at your age. We sit in silence for a while. It's getting dark outside the window. The days are short in November. Albie turns on the floor lamp, and the room fills with warm light. How long has Rochelle been visiting you? He asks suddenly. The question catches me off guard. I try to remember the last time I saw my daughter. About 3 weeks ago, I think, I answer uncertainly. She stopped by on her way home from work, bringing a cake from Sybil. Albie shakes his head but says nothing. She's very busy, I add, feeling a strange need to protect Rochelle. She's got a job, a family. Everyone has a job and a family, Lester, Albie says quietly. But parents are still parents. I don't know what to say. In my heart, I know he's right. Since Rochelle married Baxter, she hasn't been in my house as much as she used to. It's as if she's ashamed of her roots now that she's part of Bethlehem's high society. You know, said Albie, interrupting my thoughts, my Eleanor, God rest her soul, always said, if a man doesn't make time for you on good days, don't expect him to come to your aid on bad days. The bitter truth of his words resonates painfully somewhere deep inside. But I still defend my daughter. She's just changed after she got married. You mean after she married that pompous turkey of a lawyer and started playing high society? Albie was never very tactful. Baxter's not a bad man, I objected without much conviction. Yes, of course he is. That's why he looks at you like you're dirt underfoot when you meet, Albie snorts. I'm sorry, Lester, but I'm telling it like it is. I can see how rarely she visits you, how she avoids taking you to family events, how ashamed she is to show you off to her new, honorable friends. His words hurt because they're true. I've noticed all the little things. The way Rochelle corrects my speech when I speak in front of her new friends. The way she sighs when I tell stories of my life on the railroad. The way she insists I wear a decent suit for visits to their home. She's my daughter, I say quietly. The only thing I have left of Janice. Albie softens. I know, buddy. And that's why it hurts even more to see her treating you like that. We stop talking again. I can feel the fatigue coming on, my eyes falling asleep. Albie notices this and gets up. You need to rest. I'll help you to your bed now, and then I'll go. But I'll stop by in the morning to check on you. I nod gratefully, unable to find the strength for words. With his help, I get to the bedroom and literally fall onto the bed. Olby puts a glass of water, pills, and even a small bell on the nightstand. If you need anything during the night, call me. I'll hear you. Thank you, I say, feeling tears come to my eyes. I don't know what I'd do without you. It's nothing, he says. Get better. I fall asleep almost as soon as he leaves. A dreamless sleep, deep, healing. I wake up to the sound of the phone. A message. I struggle to fumble for the phone on the nightstand, squinting at the bright screen in the darkness of the room. A message from Rochelle. The time is almost 10 p.m. Dad, sorry. Been in a meeting all day. My phone ran out of battery. Can't make it tonight. It's too late. I have important things to do tomorrow, too. I'll try to stop by the day after tomorrow. I hope you're feeling better. I look at those words and something inside me finally breaks. She didn't even call. Didn't even ask how I was. Hopes I'm feeling better. Because it's more convenient. Important stuff. Always important stuff when it comes to me. I put the phone back without answering it. What can I say? It's okay, daughter, I understand. You have your own life? That would be a lie. It's night outside. The room is quiet, only the clock ticking on the wall. I lie staring into the darkness, thinking about Albie's words, about how Rochelle has changed, about how I let it happen, not wanting to see the obvious. My daughter is ashamed of me, ashamed of her roots, of her past. And the further it goes, the worse it's going to get. For the first time in a long time, I allow myself to feel bitterness and resentment. It hurts worse than a fever and a cough. It hurts worse than the loneliness of Janice's death. It's the pain of betrayal that no medication can cure. Waking up weighs down on me with heaviness and pain. My head splits open. Every breath fires in my chest, and the sheets under my back are wet with sweat. I turn my head to the nightstand with difficulty, and it's almost 10 in the morning. I've slept, if you can call it sleep, for almost 12 hours, but I feel worse than yesterday. The thermometer confirms my fears, 39 and 8. Too much for a man my age. My heart is racing, my hands are shaking, even my eyes hurt. The pills Albie left behind don't help. Either it takes time, or my illness is more serious than the flu. I force myself to reach for the phone. I need to call Rochelle. The day after tomorrow might be too late. I dial the number, listening to my chest wheeze with each breath. One dial tone, another. Then suddenly there's a click, and my daughter's voice. Hello? Rochelle? My voice is barely audible even to myself, and I have to cough, which causes another bout of pain. Rochelle, I'm getting worse. Dad? Her voice sounds strained. I can barely hear you. Are you still sick? It's almost 40, I say, feeling the hand holding the phone shake. I need help. Please come over. Or at least help me organize a doctor's visit. Silence on the other end of the line. Then a deep sigh. Dad, you're exaggerating again. Her tone becomes irritated. You have a common cold. Everyone gets sick in winter. I have absolutely no time right now. I have a crisis at work. And Sybil's... Rochelle, I interrupted, gathering all my strength. I'm very sick. Please. I hardly ever ask her for help. I've always tried to be strong, independent, not to burden her with my problems. Maybe that's why there's a desperation in my voice that I can't hide. Oh, Daddy, she sighed. You're like a child, honestly. Just take some aspirin and drink more fluids. Everyone gets the flu. It's not the end of the world. In the background, I hear Baxter's voice. Your dad again? Tell him we're on our way out to Mom's right now. Have him call an ambulance if he feels that bad. His condescending tone, as if he's talking about a cranky child, rather than a man who's worked on the railroad for 40 years and raised his daughter alone after his wife died, gives me a sudden surge of anger. I've heard everything, I say, surprised at the firmness in my voice. Don't bother, Rochelle. I can handle myself. Dad, don't start. Her voice has that special tone she's been using for the last few years, a mixture of tiredness and superiority. You know I love you, but this is a really critical time. Sybil has an important party, and Baxter and I... Important appointment, I repeated slowly. More important than your father's health? Don't be so dramatic, she said, frankly annoyed now. It's just the flu. You're not dying. The words hit harder than she could have intended. I really do feel like I'm dying. And her disregard, her unwillingness to even allow the idea that I'm actually sick, hurts deeper than the physical pain. I see, I say after a pause. I won't keep you. My legs can barely hold me up, so I have to lean against the wall. Slowly, step by step, I get to the front door. There's Albie with a bag of groceries in his hands. Lester, you're on your feet, he cheers, but then frowns as he looks at my face. You look like crap, though. I feel worse than I look, I reply, stepping back to let him pass. Albie walks quickly into the kitchen, sets the bag down, and comes back to me, helping me to a chair in the living room. Temperature? He asks, sitting me down. It's almost 40. Shit, he shakes his head. Did you call your daughter? I nod, not wanting to recount the humiliating conversation, but Albie, perceptive as ever, understands without words. She's not coming, he says affirmatively. Important appointment with my mother-in-law, I reply, trying to hide my bitterness behind irony. Albie shakes his head but doesn't comment. Instead, he puts his palm to my forehead. It's hot as a stove. I'm calling a doctor. Right now. I don't argue. I don't have the energy. I just sit there watching Albie determinedly dial his cell phone. Hello, this is Edward Albie, he says. Yes, okay, thank you. Listen, my neighbor's very sick. Temperature of 40, bad cough, weakness. Yes, elderly, 73. No, it's been a few days. It's gotten worse now. I understand, but isn't there anything we can do to speed things up? Okay, we'll wait. He hangs up and turns to me. Dr. Ramirez will be here in an hour. He says he'll try to finish up with his current patient as soon as possible. Thank you, I say, feeling gratitude mixed with shame. Rochelle should have been here, not my neighbor calling me a doctor. Albie brings me water, makes me take a fever pill, then goes into the kitchen to make a light broth. I sit with my eyes closed, listening to him rattle the dishes, mumbling something under his breath. My thoughts float, jumping from one thing to another. I remember when little Rochelle was sick once. She was about 6 years old. High fever, coughing. Janice and I took turns at her bedside. I took a day off work, even though it meant losing part of my paycheck. I sat by her side reading her stories, applying cold compresses to her forehead. She'd hold my hand and say, "Daddy, don't go." And I never left, not even for a minute. Now that I'm sick, she can't even come over. Dr. Ramirez is coming even earlier than he said he would. He's an older Hispanic man with kind eyes and calm movements. Albie escorts him into the living room, where I'm still sitting in the chair, unable to find the strength to get up. "Mr. Bolivar," the doctor shakes my hand, his palm cool and dry. "What's your problem?" I briefly describe my symptoms. The doctor listens attentively, asks questions, then asks permission to examine me. With Albie's help, I take off my shirt. The doctor listens to my lungs, frowns, takes my blood pressure, temperature, looks down my throat. "I don't like this," he says, finishing his examination. "You have a serious infection, Mr. Bolivar. Pneumonia by the looks of it. It's dangerous at your age." I nod. "That's what I thought it would be." "You need antibiotics, and strong ones at that," the doctor continues, "and bed rest. If your fever doesn't come down within 24 hours, you'll have to go to the hospital." "I'll keep an eye on him," Olby says firmly. The doctor gives him a grateful look, then turns to me. "Does your family know you're unwell?" "My daughter is busy," I answer, avoiding Olby's gaze. The doctor nods understandingly, making no comment. He writes a prescription for antibiotics, gives me detailed instructions on how to take the medication, diet, and regimen. Olby listens attentively, even making notes in a small notebook. "I'll come back to check on you the day after tomorrow," the doctor says, getting ready to leave. "And if it gets worse, call me immediately. Don't wait, it could be dangerous." After he leaves, Albie helps me into the bedroom and makes me comfortable on the bed. "I'll go to the drugstore and get some medicine," he said, "and then I'll make something light for dinner." "You don't have to do all that," I say, feeling like a burden. "Don't talk nonsense," Albie says. "We old folks have to stick together. You'll be as good as new in a couple days, you'll see." But we both know it's not that easy. The doctor was serious. Pneumonia at my age is no joke. Albie leaves, and I lie there staring at the ceiling. The conversation with Rochelle comes back into my head, her irritated voice, Baxter's condescending words in the background, Sybil's important appointment, the bitterness rising to my throat. All these years I've comforted myself with the idea that Rochelle is just busy, that she has her own life, that it's natural for children to drift away from their parents. I'd turned a blind eye to her increasingly infrequent visits, to her condescending tone, to her constant excuses. But today I saw the truth. I had become a burden to her, an uncomfortable reminder of the past she tries so hard to forget, of her working-class roots, of her small house in an unprestigious neighborhood in Bethlehem, of her black railroader father, who will never be accepted in the high society where she now revolves. I'm an uncomfortable chapter in her biography that's better to flip over. And today she did just that. Fatigue comes in waves. My eyelids grow heavy, and I let myself slip into a half asleep that isn't quite sleep, but it isn't wakefulness either. Images from the past float before my eyes. Janice in our little garden, picking tomatoes. Rochelle at graduation, so beautiful in her blue dress. Our first house, tiny but our own. I wake up to the sound of the door opening. Olby's back. I hear his footsteps in the kitchen, the clinking of dishes. I try to get up, but weakness presses me to the bed. "Don't get up," Albie says, appearing in the doorway with a tray. "I've brought medicine and soup." I obediently take the antibiotics with water, then try to eat the soup. But I have no appetite, and after a few spoonfuls, I push the plate away. "The doctor said to eat," Olby reminds me sternly. "I can't take it anymore." I shake my head. He sighs but doesn't insist. "All right, rest. I'll be in the living room, reading. If you need anything, call me." "Thank you," I say, tears welling up in my eyes. You're a real friend. Albie waves his hand in embarrassment and walks out. I'm alone in the dark bedroom again, listening to my breathing. Has the wheezing in my chest gotten worse? Or is it just me? My thoughts return to the conversation with my daughter. Her words, to how easily she brushed off my request for help, and something slowly matures in my mind. A decision I'm not yet ready to formulate, even for myself. If I'm the past she wants to get rid of, then maybe it's better to do it myself. Get out of her life, free her from having to pretend to care. A thought that not long ago would have seemed sacrilegious to me now seems almost comforting. What keeps me in this house, in this town? Memories, they're always with me. The hope that Rochelle would come back to me, become my loving daughter again. Today that hope is dead. I close my eyes, feeling strangely calm. Something ended today, something important, and something new must begin when I recover. If I recover, reminds the traitorous voice inside. But I know I will recover. I've always been strong. I survived Janice's death, and I'll survive this betrayal. Only now it's going to be different. The antibiotics are slowly doing their job. It's the second day since my temperature finally dipped below 38, and I can get out of bed without the room starting to spin. Weakness still grips my body, but no longer the all-consuming helplessness that held me in its grasp for almost a week. Doctor, Ramirez came by yesterday, checked my lungs, and nodded in satisfaction. You're on the mend, Mr. Believer, he said, but take your time. Illnesses like this take time to fully recover. Albie visits me twice a day, in the morning before his business and in the evening. He brings fresh bread, sometimes soup or stew. He makes sure I take my medication on time. I am eternally grateful to him. Without his help, things could have ended much worse. Rochelle hasn't called. Not the first day after our conversation, not the second, not the third. I didn't expect a call. She was supposed to come the day after tomorrow. That is today. But the phone has been silent all day and I'm not surprised. Disappointed, but not surprised. I sit in my chair in the living room, wrapped in a plaid, although the house is warm. It's a habit I picked up after my illness. I feel cold all the time. There's a steaming cup of tea on the table next to me, untouched. I look at the pictures on the wall, Janice, and I on our wedding day, Rochelle in her college graduation cap, all together on a picnic in the park. My phone jolts. A message. I reluctantly pick it up, expecting another commercial or bill reminder. But it's Rochelle, for the first time in 3 days. Hey, Dad! The event went great. Sybil wowed everyone. How's your health? I hope you're feeling better by now. Kisses are. I reread the message once, then again. Not a word of apology. Not a word about her not coming when she promised. The event went great is all that matters. I hope you're feeling better. Not, how are you feeling? Or, are you feeling better? But I hope you're feeling better. Because if you are, you don't have to feel guilty for not coming. I put the phone away without answering it. What can I say? Yes, daughter, I almost died of pneumonia while you were having fun at your mother-in-law's appointment. Or, thanks for asking, only 3 days later. Bitterness rises to my throat, but I inhale deeply, suppressing it. There's no point in being angry. There's no point in being offended. There's no changing this. My daughter has become a different person, a person for whom I no longer come first, maybe not even 10th. I thought about it all those days, lying in bed, listening to the rain drumming on the roof, the wind howling in the bare branches of the old oak tree outside the window. I thought of Rochelle, how she had changed since her marriage, how she'd come less and less often, how her visits had gotten shorter and shorter, how her calls turned into hurried checks to see if the old man was still alive, if there were funeral arrangements to be made. I don't blame her, not entirely. She always wanted more, always wanted to get out of our humble world. And when Baxter came along, a successful lawyer from a good family, she saw him as a chance to be part of the community she'd always dreamed of. I remember the first time she brought him to us, tall, trim, with perfectly styled hair and a cold smile. I remember him looking around our humble home, trying to hide his disdain behind politeness. How he spoke to me as if I were feeble-minded, slowly and loudly, explaining the simplest things. Janice said to me then, "I don't like that guy. Too much attitude, too little soul." But then she added, "But it's Rochelle's choice. We have to respect her decision." And we did, even as she began to drift apart, even when her visits became infrequent and tense, even when she began to shame us in front of her new friends. After Janice died, it just got worse. It was as if Rochelle's last link to the past had been severed. Now she could fully immerse herself in her new world, where there was no room for her old railroader father with his simple manners and outdated attitudes. I reach for my phone again, looking at the message, and suddenly, like a flash, a realization hits me. Enough. Enough clinging to the past, to the illusion that my daughter still needs me, still loves me as she did when she was a child. No more being a shadow in her new life, an uncomfortable reminder of the roots she's trying so hard to forget. The decision comes suddenly, but with a clarity that feels like I've been nurturing it for years. I will sell the house. I will leave Bethlehem. I'll start a new life somewhere that doesn't have these painful memories, this constant waiting for a call or a visit that never comes. I have a cousin in Georgia, Vernon. We haven't seen each other in years, but kept in touch with cards at Christmas and occasional phone calls. He called me to his place after Janice died, saying, "Lester, it's warm here. It's easier for old bones to breathe." I said no then. I couldn't leave Rochelle. It's funny, isn't it? I pick up the phone, but not to answer my daughter. I dial the number of a real estate office I saw on a sign nearby. My voice is still weak, but my determination makes it firm. "Good morning. I'd like to inquire about the possibility of selling the house," I say when a woman's voice answers the phone. "Of course, sir. May I have your address and the approximate square footage of the property?" I give the address, answer questions about the house, its condition, when it was built. We make an appointment for the next day. The realtor will come to inspect the house, appraise it, and discuss next steps. As I hang up the phone, I feel strangely relieved. It's as if the weight I've been carrying for years has suddenly disappeared. The decision has been made, and now I can act. I need to get the house ready to sell. Sort through things, decide what to take with me and what to keep. It won't be easy, especially with Janice's things that I've kept all these years, unable to part with them. But now I'm ready. It's time to let go of the past. I start in the living room. I take the pictures off the walls, put them neatly in a box. Each picture is a piece of the past. Here's Janice and me on our wedding day, young, happy, hopeful. Here's little Rochelle on her first bike, proud smile, knees knocked together. Here's a family picnic in the park, Janice laughing, me putting my arm around her shoulders, Rochelle waving at the camera. Weakness still makes itself felt. I have to rest often, sit down, catch my breath. But the work moves on. By lunchtime, the living room looks unusually empty. No photos, no souvenirs, no books that I've taken off the shelves and put in boxes. The doorbell interrupts my studies. It's Albie with a bag of groceries. "What are you doing?" he asks, looking around the empty living room. "Getting ready to move," I answer simply. Albie freezes with the bag in his hands, then slowly sets it on the table. "Moving?" he asks again. "Where?" "Georgia. To a cousin's house," I say, watching his reaction. He shakes his head, but he doesn't look surprised, like he was expecting something like this. "Because of Rochelle?" he asks bluntly. I shrug. "Because of me. Tired of living in the past. Tired of waiting for things that aren't going to happen." Albie nods, sits down across from me. "When did you decide?" "Today," I answer honestly. Rochelle texted me. Asked me if I'd gotten better. Not a word about not coming when she said she would. Not a word of apology. Just, "The event went great." Olby hums. "And that was the final straw?" "Yeah. I realized I no longer wanted to be in her life, only when it suited her. All my life I'd invested everything I had in her. Time, money, love. And she chose strangers. People who despise me. Despise everything I represent. I don't say that without bitterness. I'm just stating a fact. And Albie understands. Nods, not trying to contradict or comfort. "Did you tell her?" "No. And I won't until it's ready. Let her come to an empty house." "That's harsh," Albie remarks, but without judgment. She deserves it, I reply. I was there for her when she needed me, and when I asked for help, she chose the party. Albie is silent for a moment, then asks, "What can I do to help?" "Nothing." I shake my head. "I'll have to do it myself." "Don't be silly," he stands up. "You're not strong enough after your illness. Come on, tell me what to do." And we start working together, taking things apart, sorting, packing. Olby doesn't try to talk me out of it, doesn't try to defend Rochelle. He just helps. And for that, I am eternally grateful. By evening, we've sorted out most of the living room and started the bedroom. I find Janice's old letters that she used to write to me when I was away on business trips. I reread them, sitting on the edge of the bed, feeling tears come to my eyes. So much love in these lines, so much warmth. I miss it so much. "Will you take them with you?" Albie asked, nodding at the letters. "Yes," I said. "Some things can't be left behind." We continue working late into the night. Albie insists that I rest more often, reminding me that I'm still recovering. But working helps me not to think, not to analyze my decision. Just do what needs to be done. Finally, Albie leaves, promising to return tomorrow. I'm left alone in a house that is slowly ceasing to be mine. Pictures are boxed up, books packed, souvenirs sorted. Only the essentials remain, the things I need for each day. I check my phone before I go to bed. No new messages from Rochelle. Of course not. She said what she needed to, checked in, and now I don't have to worry about the old man until the next time my conscience makes me remember he exists. I don't feel anger, only weariness and humility. She made her choice, I make mine. Life goes on. In the morning, the realtor arrives, a young woman with energetic movements and a professional smile. She inspects the house, takes notes, photographs the rooms. She says the house is in good condition, that the neighborhood is in demand, that we can expect a quick sale. "Are you moving closer to family?" she asks in between. "Farther away," I answer. "Much farther." She gives me a curious look, but doesn't question me. We discuss the price, the terms, the necessary documents. I sign the contract with the agency, get a copy, shake her hand goodbye. "We'll find a buyer quickly," she promises. Houses like this don't stay on the market for long. After she leaves, I continue unpacking. I reach Janice's closet, which I haven't opened since she died. Her dresses still hold the faint scent of her perfume. I run my hand over the fabric, remembering what she looked like in each one. This is the hardest part, but we have to move on. Albie comes in after lunch, helps me pack the rest of my things. We work in silence, each of us absorbed in our own thoughts. "Are you sure about your decision?" he asks at last. "Yes," I answer without hesitation. "I've never been so sure of anything." He nods. "I'll miss you, you old grouch." "I'll miss you too," I smile. "But you can always come visit. Vernon would be glad." "Maybe I will," he says. "It's been a long time since I've been down south." We keep working. Day turns to evening, evening to night. The house is gradually emptying. Boxes of things I want to keep are neatly stacked in a corner. The rest is for charity or to be thrown away. I call Vernon, tell him of my decision. He's happy, says he's been waiting for this for a long time, that he has a room for me, that the climate is milder there, that his workshop is always open if I want to help. "You'll like it here, Lester," he says. "A new beginning, new people, no past, and I believe him. I believe I can start over, even at 73, that I can find peace and maybe even happiness away from painful memories and dashed hopes." The phone is still silent. Rochelle doesn't call, doesn't write. She doesn't care, and now I don't care either. The realtor was right. The house didn't last long on the market. 3 days after the listing went up, potential buyers started calling. I showed the house, talked about its features, how Janice and I had renovated the kitchen 10 years ago, how we'd replaced the windows, how we'd tended the garden. And each time I walked strangers through the rooms that had been my home for nearly half a century, I felt the attachment to those walls weaken. On the 6th day, the realtor called, voice excited. "Mr. Believer, we have an offer. A young couple, they really like your house. They're willing to pay full price, cash, no credit, no mortgage." I sat in the nearly empty living room, listening to her voice, and felt a strange calm, like the last piece of the puzzle was falling into place. "How much are they offering?" She quoted a sum, a little higher than I'd expected. "Good money. Enough to start a new life in Georgia, help Vernon with his workshop, maybe even travel a little, to see a world I'd never seen, being tied to work, family, routine." "I agree," I said. "When can we make a deal?" "They want to make it quick. We can meet at the notary the day after tomorrow if that's okay with you." "Fast. That's good. The less time to think about it, the better." "That's fine," I said. "Let me know the time and address." After the call, I sat in the chair for a long time, staring at the bare walls, at the empty shelves. The house where Rochelle had been born and raised, where Janice and I had lived all our lives together, would soon belong to strangers. They'll repaint the walls, replace the furniture, maybe even rearrange the rooms. Erase all traces of our existence here. It's the right thing to do. It's time to erase the past. Rochelle never called after that text. No word, no visit. I knew she was busy, her career, her husband, her new family. I ceased to exist for her as soon as I stopped being useful. Albie came by every day, helping with packing up what was left, sorting out what needed to be thrown away. We worked in silence, occasionally exchanging phrases, and that silence was comfortable, understanding. The next day I met the buyers, a young couple, just as the realtor had said. He is a computer programmer. She is an elementary school teacher. Both blonde-haired, smiling, with plans for the future, with dreams of a family. "We're so happy we found this house," the woman said as she looked around the living room. "The energy here is so good. You can feel that happy people lived here." I didn't tell her about the last few years of loneliness, about how this house had become a cage of memories for me. I just nodded and smiled. "I hope you'll be happy here," I said sincerely. The meeting at the notary's office went smoothly. The papers were signed. The money was transferred to my account. The house is no longer mine. I have 2 weeks to finally move out, get the rest of my stuff. But I knew I'd leave sooner. The sooner the better. Back at home, no longer my home, I reminded myself. I began the final preparations. I packed the rest of my personal belongings, clothes, a few books, photo albums, Janice's letters. Everything that mattered to me fit into 4 boxes and 1 suitcase. What to do with the rest? Furniture, dishes, appliances, all no longer needed. I called a local charity and arranged for them to come and take everything that could be useful to families in need. The rest of it's for throwing away. I've already bought a ticket to Atlanta, by train of course. I've worked on the railroad all my life, and even now I prefer this mode of transportation to any other. The train leaves tomorrow, early in the morning. Vernon will meet me at the station and take me to his home in a small town near Savannah. Olby came in the evening, helped me pack the last of my things, took out the trash. We sat on the porch, drinking coffee out of paper cups, the cups already packed. We were silent, looking at the familiar street, at the neighboring houses, at the autumn trees shedding their last leaves. "Did you tell her?" Albie asked at last. "No," I shook my head. "She hasn't called, hasn't written. I don't want to impose. She'll be looking for you when she finds out the house is sold." "Let her look," I shrugged. "I'll leave a note. That's all she deserves." Albie didn't argue. He understood. In those weeks, while I was sick, and then as I prepared to leave, he'd seen everything. My loneliness, my frustration, my resignation to the fact that my daughter had chosen a different life where I had no place. "Will I see you in the morning?" he asked, getting up. 6 o'clock on the porch. I nodded. The cab's booked for 6:30. He patted me on the shoulder and left. I sat on the porch watching the sunset, the last sunset in this house, in this town, in this life. I spent the night restless. Not that I doubted my decision. No, it was firm, final. It was just the thoughts that kept me restless. Memories came back one after another. The first day in this house, Rochelle's birth, her first steps, her first words, the school holidays, the graduation, the wedding. I thought of Janice, of what she would say about my decision. Would she approve, or would she try to reconcile me and my daughter? Probably the latter. She'd always been the peacemaker in our family. But I wasn't looking for peace now. I was looking for peace. and that's different. I finally fell asleep before dawn, but not for long. The alarm clock woke me up at 5 in the morning. I showered, got dressed, checked everything was packed. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, the only piece of furniture still in place, and started writing. A note for Rochelle. What to say? How to explain my decision without descending into accusations, into bitterness? I crossed out several drafts before settling on a short, restrained text. Rochelle, I've sold the house, starting a new life where there are no painful memories. Don't come looking for me. You made your choice long ago. Now I've made mine. Your share of the sale of the house has been deposited into your bank account. Lester. Cold? Maybe, but honest. No false hopes. No promises to keep in touch. A clean breakup. I reread the note, folded the piece of paper, and put it in an envelope with my daughter's name on it. Now all that was left to do was wait. At 6 sharp, Albie appeared on the porch, in his old jacket and worn cap. We silently loaded my things into his old pickup. He'd insisted on driving me to the station himself, not trusting cab drivers. Last checkup? He asked, nodding at the house. I shook my head. No, I'd seen everything, memorized everything. Now just go ahead. I taped the envelope with the note to the door, so Rochelle would see it when she came. If she came. We got in the car and Albie pulled away. I didn't look back. I didn't want to remember the house that way, empty, alien, ready for new owners. I wanted to remember it full of life, laughter, warmth. The way it had been when Janice was alive, when Rochelle was little. The drive to the station took about 20 minutes. The morning was cool but clear. The sky over Bethlehem was brightening, promising a weather day. We hardly spoke, each of us absorbed in his own thoughts. At the station, Albie helped me unload my things and waited until the porter had loaded them on the cart. Then we stood on the platform, shuffling awkwardly from foot to foot, not knowing what to say. Well, said Albie at last, holding out his hand. Have a good trip, old friend. I shook his hand, but then suddenly I pulled him into a hug. We hugged tightly, man to man, patting each other on the back. Thank you, I said quietly. For everything. You're a real friend. It's nothing, he dismissed it, but I saw him furtively wipe his eyes. Write to me when you're settled, and invite me to visit, because I'm seriously thinking of coming to visit you in the winter. These northern colds are no longer for my old bones. I'll be waiting, I smiled. Vernon will be glad to meet you. They announced the boarding of my train. We exchanged a final handshake, and I headed for the car. The porter had already loaded my things, the conductor checked my ticket, and now I was sitting at the window, looking out at the platform, where a lone figure in a shabby cap stood. Albie raised his hand in a parting gesture, and I did the same. The train moved on, slowly picking up speed. The platform, the station, the city, it was all behind me, turning into memories. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. Ahead, a new life, new opportunities. Behind, 50 years in Bethlehem, happy and bitter, filled with love and disappointment. I wonder when Rochelle will find the house empty. When she reads my note, what will she feel? Anger, resentment, relief. Or maybe she'll finally realize what she's lost. I opened my eyes, looked out the window at the passing scenery. It didn't matter anymore. I'd made my choice. She made hers. Our paths parted. The train picked up speed, taking me farther and farther away from the past, from the pain, from the disappointment. Georgia ahead, warmth, a new home, new people. Ahead was freedom from expectations, from vain hopes, from the constant feeling that I wasn't good enough for my daughter and her new family. I pulled out of my pocket the picture of Janice I always carried with me, her smile, her eyes full of love. You would understand, I thought. You always understood me better than anyone else. I tucked the picture back into my pocket, closer to my heart, a part of the past I'm taking with me, the only part that still mattered. Outside the window, trees, houses, roads flashed by. America was hurtling toward me, vast, diverse, full of possibilities even for a 73-year-old man starting his life over. I closed my eyes again, letting the sound of the wheels lull me to sleep. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Not happiness, no, it was still a long way off, but peace, and that was a lot. I woke up to the conductor's announcement. First stop, 10 minutes. I didn't get off, just looked out the window at the unfamiliar town, at the people hurrying about their business, at the life that goes on in spite of everything. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A message. I pulled it out, looked at the screen. Not Rochelle, just an alert from the bank about the proceeds from the sale of the house. A large sum of money, ensuring a comfortable life for years to come. I set the phone aside, feeling neither joy nor satisfaction. Money is just money. It won't replace lost years. It won't fix mistakes. It won't heal wounds. The train touched down again, continuing its journey south. I looked out the window at the changing scenery, the fields changing to forests, the small towns and lonely farms. The country spread out before me like a book I'd never read, but now I had time to study every page. Rochelle probably didn't know about my decision yet. Maybe hasn't even thought of me since our last conversation. Busy with her business, her career, her husband, her mother-in-law. A world that has no place for me, and now there's no room for her in my new world. Is that fair? Probably not, but it's necessary. For my peace of mind, for my dignity, for spending the last years of my life at peace with myself. I don't know if she'll ever understand. Will she realize how painful it was to feel rejected, unwanted, forgotten? Will she realize that there's a line you can't cross, even with your parents, especially with parents? But that's not my concern anymore. I did the best I could as a father. I loved her, nurtured her, supported her, gave her an education, opportunities I never had. If all that's not enough, if she's still ashamed of me, of her roots, of her ancestry, there's nothing more I can do. The train rushed south, taking me to a new life, a new beginning. No bitterness, no resentment, no expectations. Just forward, toward an unknown future that I would build on my own terms. And for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Like the weight I'd been carrying for years was finally gone. As if the shackles that had been holding me back were finally broken. I'm free. And it's a strange, unfamiliar, but surprisingly pleasant feeling. Georgia greeted me with sunshine and warmth, not November by Bethlehem standards. Vernon was waiting at the Savannah station, leaning on his cane, wearing his straw hat. We hadn't seen each other for 8 years, not since Janice's funeral, but we recognized each other at once. "Lester, you old devil," he exclaimed, putting one arm around me. "You've made up your mind at last." His town, Livingston, was exactly as I had imagined. Small, sleepy, with neat houses along wide streets lined with oak trees, with front gardens full of late fall flowers. Vernon's house, one story, with a spacious veranda and a garden in the backyard, stood on the outskirts, a couple blocks from his workshop. The room he'd prepared for me was bright and spacious. The windows looked out onto the garden, where the old peach trees were shedding their last leaves. "Make yourself comfortable," Vernon said as he helped me bring my suitcase in. "It was a small house, but there's plenty of room. It's too big for an old man alone, but it'll be fine for two." For the first few days, I just rested. After my illness, after the stress of selling the house and moving, I was slow to recover. Vernon didn't rush me, didn't ask me any questions. In the mornings, he would go to his workshop, come back for lunch, which we cooked together, then leave again until evening. And I sat on the veranda, reading, watching the life of the small town, breathing the warm southern air. The phone was silent. Rochelle hadn't called, hadn't written. I didn't know if she'd already discovered the house was empty, if she'd read my note. I didn't want to know. I decided for myself, the past was the past. A new chapter of my life was beginning here in Georgia. Vernon didn't ask about Rochelle, though he must have known there was a serious rift between us. He rarely asked about her, preferring to talk about the present, his workshop, his neighbors, the local news, and I was grateful for his tactful silence. On the 4th day, I felt strong enough to offer my help in the workshop. "Are you sure?" Vernon asked. "The work isn't too hard, but still." "I need something to keep my hands and my head busy," I answered. "I can't sit around all day thinking." He nodded understandingly. So I started working with him in a small shop where he repaired everything from radios and televisions to lawnmowers and small appliances. My background as an electrical engineer came in handy. Vernon was happy to help. At his age, it's already hard to handle small parts, and his eyesight isn't what it used to be. We worked side by side, exchanging occasional phrases, sometimes humming old blues tunes we both remembered from our youth. Vernon would turn on the radio tuned to a jazz wave, and the music would fill the workshop, displacing silence and unnecessary thoughts. In the evenings, we would sit on the veranda, drinking beer or whiskey, looking at the stars. Here, far from the big cities, they seemed brighter and closer. Vernon talked about the locals, about his life after his wife's death, about how he had learned to live alone. At first, I thought I couldn't stand it, he said, shaking his glass of whiskey. After 40 years together, it's scary to suddenly find yourself alone. But then I realized, life goes on, and it can be good, even if it's not what it used to be. His words resonated with me. I didn't think I'd survive Janice's death either, but I did, and I would survive this new challenge, betraying my daughter too. The week in Georgia flew by. I was drawn into a new rhythm of life, got acquainted with Vernon's neighbors, with the regular customers of the workshop. They welcomed me warmly, no questions asked. To them, I was just Vernon's cousin from the north who had decided to move to a warm place in his old age. On Saturday, exactly a week after my arrival, Vernon and I were in the workshop working on an old radio that Mrs. Wilkins had brought in. An elderly African-American woman who owned a small bakery, she insisted that it was the one she wanted in her kitchen because of its special memories. I plunged into my work, carefully checking every wire, every bulb. Vernon watched with an approving smile. "You've got a talent for this, cousin," he said. "Better than I do." "Just a good engineering background." I dismissed it, though the praise was nice. At that moment, my cell phone rang. I pulled it out of my pocket, glanced at the screen, and froze. Rochelle. After a week of silence, Vernon noticed my confusion. "Is everything all right?" "Daughter?" I answered briefly, feeling my heart start to beat faster. He nodded, standing up. "I'm going to get some air. I'll smoke outside." The phone kept ringing in my hand. I stared at the blinking name, at the picture of Rochelle from a few years ago, when we were still close, or so it seemed to me. Finally, I made up my mind. I pressed decline. A minute later, the phone vibrated again. A message. "Dad, please pick up the phone. I need to talk to you. It's urgent." Another minute later, a call. I rejected again. Another message. "Dad, Baxter and I got to the house and it's empty. Found your note. What's going on? Where are you? Why did you sell the house? Why didn't you tell me?" I put the phone away. So they'd just discovered my departure. They hadn't visited in a week, hadn't called. And now the panic. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Call after call, message after message. I read them without answering. "Dad, this is crazy. You can't just take off without telling anyone. The neighbor said you left for Georgia. Is that true? Why, Dad? Baxter says you had no right to sell the house without my consent. It's Mom's inheritance." The last message elicited a bitter laugh. Of course, Baxter the lawyer immediately thought of money, of inheritance. Didn't even ask how I felt, why I'd made this decision. "Dad, please answer me. I'm worried. Are you okay? Is it because of the illness? Did you mess something up?" She thinks I've lost my mind, that there's no other way to explain my decision, that I couldn't consciously choose to leave her life. The phone rang again. This time I answered it. "Daddy!" Rochelle's voice sounded both scared and annoyed. "Finally, what's going on? Where are you?" "I'm in Georgia," I answered calmly. "At Vernon's." "Why? Why didn't you tell me you were leaving? Why did you sell the house?" I left a note. "Don't come looking for me? That's all you can say to your daughter?" There was resentment in her voice. "Dad, I don't understand what happened. I mean, we had a normal conversation. Everything was fine." "No, Rochelle, it wasn't," I interrupted. "And you know it. We weren't on good terms. You called once a month. You visited once every 2 months. And when I got sick, when I was begging for help, you picked a party at your mother-in-law's house. It wasn't just a party." She resented it. "It was an important reception for Baxter's career. I couldn't miss it." "More important than your father's health?" She was silent for a moment, then said more quietly, Dad, you've got it all wrong. I'm just very busy. I have work, family, commitments. I got it right, Rochelle, I said, feeling strangely calm. I realized that I was no longer important to you, that I'm an inconvenient reminder of a past you're trying to forget. So I decided to free you from having to pretend. What are you talking about? Her voice trembled. I've never... You're ashamed of me, I said bluntly, of your past, of your roots. You're ashamed of your black railroader father in front of your white friends in high society. That's not true. It is, Rochelle, and we both know it. You made your choice a long time ago. Now I've made mine. Silence on the other end of the line. Then a quiet voice full of tears. How could you, Daddy? I'm your daughter. Your only daughter. My daughter died for me the day she chose a party over her dying father. I didn't know you were so sick. There was despair in her voice. You're always exaggerating, always dramatizing. How was I supposed to know it was serious this time? I had almost 40-degree temperature. I couldn't get out of bed. I begged you to come, and you said, it's just the flu. You're not dying. Daddy, please, she was crying openly now. I admit I was wrong. I should have come. But that's no reason to ruin our family, to sell the house, to leave. Our family? I grinned bitterly. We don't have a family anymore, Rochelle. You destroyed it yourself gradually, year after year, distancing yourself from me, ashamed of me, preferring your new family, Baxter, Sybil, their world, where I have no place. That's not true. Yes, it is. And now you're calling not because you're worried about me, but because you've discovered that the house has been sold, that the money you may have counted on after my death is gone. How can you say that? She was indignant. I never thought of your money. Then why was it that the first thing Baxter said was that I had no right to sell the house without your consent? She fell silent. I could hear her heavy breathing, her sobs. Daddy, please, she said at last. Let's start again. I'll come to you. We'll talk. We'll fix it. There's nothing to fix, Rochelle. It's over. I'm starting a new life. Without you, without the memories, without the constant pain of knowing my daughter is ashamed of me. Dad, now there was panic in her voice. You can't do this. I'm your daughter, your blood. Goodbye, Rochelle, I said firmly. Don't call me again. Don't write. Your share of the sale of the house has been transferred to your account. That's all I can do for you. Dad, no. Wait. I interrupted the call. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding like crazy. But I felt strangely relieved, as if I'd finally opened the boil that had plagued me for years. The phone rang again. I rejected the call and blocked Rochelle's number. Then, just to be sure, I blocked Baxter's number. It was over. It was over. Vernon came back into the workshop, gave me a questioning look, but didn't ask me anything. Just sat down next to me and continued working on the radio. We finished the repair in silence. The old RCA Victor played again, clear and uninterrupted. A jazz tune filled the workshop. Mrs. Wilkins will be pleased, Vernon remarked, closing the back panel of the receiver. She says she met her husband with this music. I nodded, unable to speak. The lump in my throat was getting in the way, my eyes stinging from unshed tears. Vernon noticed my condition and put a hand on my shoulder. Let's go home, cousin, he said softly. There's enough work for today. We closed the workshop and walked slowly down the street toward his house. The day was drawing to a close, and the sun was sinking toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Georgia was saying goodbye to another day. On the veranda, Vernon pulled out a bottle of whiskey, 2 glasses. Pouring it without question, he handed me one. To new beginnings, he said, raising his glass. To new beginnings, I echoed. We sat in the wicker chairs, drinking whiskey, watching the sunset. Vernon didn't ask about his conversation with Rochelle, and I was grateful for his silence. I didn't feel like talking, explaining, making excuses. I just sat there, breathing the warm air, feeling the tension gradually leave my body. Dusk was falling on the town. The lights in the windows of the houses were coming on. Somewhere in the distance, music was playing. Laughter could be heard. Life went on, without drama, without tragedy, simple and clear. and suddenly I felt that I could breathe fully, for the first time in years. It was as if the weight pressing on my chest was gone. It was as if the chains that had been binding me had finally been loosened. I'm free, from expectation, from disappointment, from the constant hope that my daughter would come back to me as she was before, from pretending, from having to pretend that everything was okay, that I was okay with being the inconvenient relative who was tolerated out of a sense of duty. Vernon looked at me with an understanding gaze. He'd been through his losses, his disappointments. He knew what it was like to let go of the past, to start over. "Is it easier?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I answered. "A lot." He nodded, not asking for an explanation. We sat on the veranda until the last rays of the sun disappeared over the horizon and the sky was filled with stars. The warm wind rustled the leaves of the trees, the cicadas chirped in the grass. A peaceful evening in a small town in Georgia. And I finally felt like I was breathing freely.